Arise and shine, arise and shine. It's the 7th of March 2022, and obviously the very first full week arising from the month of March, the month that actually started midway, and it will as well end in the midway. So you would actually look at that and say maybe the month may have close to 5 weeks of having the name March in our headings and wherever we are. This is Fun Means Business. My name is Jerome Paul Sonko.
And Rita Cavanagh. Still a week celebrating and highlighting Women's Day. And I don't know how you'll be celebrating me
for the women.
As we move forward, as we move further this week. But I dedicate this week to every lady, to every girl child, and you people, the men, because without you, I mean, there is no equal support at some point. So thank you so much for joining us. You can always be a part of us by simply watching us through the Yo TV channel, and it is always easier to get it through the MTN app. Download it there, and you can watch Smart 24 TV everywhere, anywhere. And also, you can simply be a part of the conversation continuously on our social media platforms at Smart 24 TV by just going to anywhere, any social media you want, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can catch our website around there at Smart 24 TV.
And of course, with that, we can continue to drive your business. We're dedicated to make sure that you understand what is happening from the prospect of the world of business. Many things are happening, and many Ugandans out there are still taking part of the business world when you look at that in that particular angle. Today being the 7th of March, high expectations is that the Rwanda-Uganda border will be fully reopened. Remember, when it was first reopened, they had actually opened it up for only the cargo drivers or truck drivers that actually taking in cargo, the imports and exports for both countries. But now even citizens of both countries can freely move. So when you look at that, it's the 7th of March starting on a very high note, with the fact that we shall still have the chance to actually move to and from Rwanda. High expectations, but we'll be following up on that to clearly come up with an official statement to reveal that the Rwanda and Uganda border is officially open for both cargo and the citizens.
And of course, that will therefore boost trade around the country, not only for Uganda, but Rwanda as well, since the two countries also have got mutual trading agreements, as well as producers that cross vis-a-vis the two countries. But you should also be expecting a lot from SMB in regards to whether you want to know how actually the day will be running, or how the weather forecast will be even around other continents across the globe. And
in today's show, amongst many things that we'll be discussing, we shall try to tackle what is happening across the world in terms of the international news and bringing you the business from the international world. We shall also be looking at UCC's struggle to make sure that we end counterfeit in terms to do with the communication devices on the market, the counterfeit or fake communication gadgets on the market, amongst which we shall be discussing all that in today's show and looking at more of the commodity updates, as well as looking at the business tips to make sure that we keep you updated and giving you all that matters to do with business.
And speaking about keeping updated and keeping up to speed, don't be away from missing out our analytical conversation or discussions where we engage experts and maybe economists or any expertise from any sectors, respective from where you are. So today, still catch up around our last hour, where we will bring to you a discussion that you shouldn't miss out. And the discussion you'll be heading that. What should we expect in our discussion?
Well, today's discussion should also be talking about mainly the UCC's struggle to actually put an end to counterfeit communication gadgets on the market. And with that, let's first have a look at some of those reports that made headlines over the weekend that you might have missed. And we started off with the African Continental Free Trade Area that came into existence last year. This was formed as a result of creating a common market for Africa, and it's now a year as we now assess the impact and its challenges. Stephen Asimwe, the Executive Director, Private Sector Foundation, Uganda, discloses the impact and what needs to be done to better the agenda, as sensitization has been greatly called on from the African Continental Free Trade Area needs in order to strengthen it. Let's have a look at these details.
The Africa Continental Free Trade Area came into existence on the 1st of January 2021. It came out as a result of concerted efforts by African leaders and the private sector to ensure that we have one big market that is uninterrupted and that there's a free flow of business, of trade, of goods, of services, of people. Because for a long time, for hundreds of years, we have traded with Europe and America, and now the Far East has become a major partner. And yet, we are not trading with each other. We share borders with Sudan, with Congo, with Ethiopia, with Tanzania, with Rwanda, with Burundi. We are part of the East African community. We are part of COMESA. But we are not benefiting from trade with each other. Our neighbors, the DRC, imports big quantities of powdered milk. Yet we are saying we don't have market for that here because of lack of trade agreements. So the framers and the designers and the orchestrators of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area wanted, and we believe strongly at the private sector, to create one big market. Our GDP has grown in the last 10 years by a couple of $1 trillion. Our population has grown, which means there's a consumer market. So you have a big consumer market. Our GDPs have grown, productivity, our growth numbers have gone up. But we are not trading with each other. We're trading with Europe, with America, with Asia. And yet, Africa can become one huge market because of proximity. We speak the same language, we share borders, and we have the same DNA. So the Free Continental Free Trade Area was created to create a much more concerted trade agreement with each other. Now, what does that involve? It involves removing what we call NTBs, non-tariff barriers, borders, customs requirements, all sorts of things that impede business, roadblocks, currency differences. So it is envisaged that one day Africa will become one big market, whereby it's like moving from Arua to Jinja, and you are not interrupted because you are one big nice market where people are trading each other. Now, the East African community, the Common Custom Union, has created a very good case of the possibilities that are available. The ESC, since the 90s when it was started, has actually shown that you can develop trade better by having good rules, good trade agreements, and better ways of doing business. Now we have one-stop border post. We used to stop crossing borders at midnight, at 6 o'clock. Now it's a 24-hour thing. We have improved infrastructure, airlines. Still not the best, but basically we've seen that some of the best practices in East African community can actually be cascaded to West, North, and South. COMESA has also shown us that we can do well. ECOWAS has some good practices. The Maghreb states in the north have shown we can do better. And so we are excited that this ACFTA is coming and will improve and show that we can actually buy from each other. Now, we have also seen that Europe and America, and to a very great extent now Asia, have very, very restrictive conditions of exporting to their country. It's now very difficult to export fruits, vegetables, fish, and many other commodities into Europe and America and Asia. It's very easy to transport our pineapples, our mangoes, our oranges, our fish, our matoke, our beans to neighboring countries, and they consume. What is only disturbing us are those tariff barriers. A kilo of meat in Lagos goes for 70,000 shillings. a kilo of meat in Kinshasa is going for 65 to 90,000 shillings. Quality beef from Uganda. We have 3 flights now to the DRC. We are saying, can we improve trade relations and ensure that what we think is a lack of a market is actually there? Can we explore opportunities that can take our things? The ACFTA is not just goods, it's also services. We have a very, very educated group of young people. 75% of our population is under the age of 35. We have trained lawyers, ICT engineers, doctors, fantastic people. But the ACFTA also allows for professionalism, crossing borders. We can export our labor, intellectual property to these places. So the market is goods and services, but also it's a movement of labor, of facilities that can be taken. People can come to our universities. We now have over 50 universities in the country. It's an open space to come and learn, but remove impediments. You now see school fees for Ugandans, but we are not giving special status to other African countries. And yet, our universities have capacity to teach much more than they are doing right now. What the ACFTA is also envisaged to do is to improve infrastructure. The distance from our border in Kasese, in Pocha, and Bunagana to the other side of Congo is about 4,000 kilometers. We're looking at a situation where we shall have a railway system which starts in Mombasa on the Indian Ocean and goes across Africa to Kinshasa on the Atlantic Ocean. We want more roads, more infrastructure, more airlines. Our airlines are still restrictive. Open skies is still a dream, but the ACFTA is envisaged to open more flights. When you're going to West Africa now, you first go to Europe, then you connect to a West African country. The ACFTA is envisaged to open our skies so that we have regional airlines that crisscross each other, that make it faster and better to do. And actually, Africa is a very rich country, a continent. It's a place we can explore, exploit professionally, and ensure that we get more jobs and our economy grows. It has been done in Asia, it has been done in Africa. The EU is the best example. Countries are consolidating business, currencies, systems. There is no reason why we can't do it with our continent. And what we are doing at PSFU is, first of all, to ensure that our business population is well informed and understands the rules and engagement of the ACFTA. We have just embarked on an exercise of identifying 250 micro, small, and medium enterprises and training them to be export ready to be able to tap into this market. We've actually conducted a series of workshops. I know that there is more activity happening with the Ministry of Trade and other auxiliary agencies that are going to partner with all of us. But what is important is that we want people to be prepared for that market. The issue of standards is very, very, very important. The issue of sustainability is very important. The issue of reliability is very important. The issue of digitization, this thing of moving cash and is not anymore tenable. So we are training people, we are preparing people, we are equipping people, we are skilling the business community, even the small ones, to be able to understand how the ACFTA works. The first set of people we have used and trained are going to become what we call TOTs, trainers of trainers. So we cannot reach the whole country. We can train a few people who then go out there and are able to train others and show them that there are these opportunities. At the same time, we are working with the Ministry of Trade, the Export Promotions Board, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with its commercial diplomacy. We are working with the Bureau of Standards. We are working with airlines. We are working with immigration. We are working with NIRA. We are working with NITA. We are working with other private sector associations and members who are part of our consortium to ensure that we all understand this thing and take advantage of it. And I can tell you it is already producing very, very good results. In the last 2 weeks, we have signed we are preparing for what is known as JPCs, Joint Permanent Commissions with the DRC. We are taking a group of business people to the DRC at the end of March. We are also preparing to go to Burundi as part of this discussion. It is true Burundi is part of the EAC, but in the broader framework of the ACFTA, we want to start going there and ensuring that the things we signed on come into practice.
Trainings for the African Continental Free Trade Area are slated to begin this very year. Was different federations that bring together the trader communities as well as the private sector will be playing a role in ensuring that Ugandans get to understand. It's 1 year now ever since the initiation of bringing on board the African Continental Free Trade Area in the country. And as a matter of fact, to see that Africans, also the private sector, gets involved in creating awareness for not only trade, but also how to protect the environment and the surrounding for a better future.
Very well, and maybe what you should not or should about remember always, according to the World Bank, they're highlighting that the African Continental Free Area is going to be presenting a major opportunity for African countries to bring together about 30 million people out of the extreme poverty and also raising the income of about 68 million others who are living less than $5, that is per day. And with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the facilitation also is bound to measure the cut rate tape and simplifying customs procured the drive of about 292 billion US dollars of around 450 billion in the potential income gains. And lastly, because it's majorly driven by three major objectives, the last one being implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will be helping usher in any kinds of deep reforms necessary to enhance long-term growth in African countries. So like the gentleman was highlighting around there from PSFU that the conjoinment of these countries is going to bring a good thing, because if you look at already the emerging of other countries, like the recent one, DRC, being added onto the East African community, we've got Rwanda now, but still things are just moving in simplicity, but they will be okay. And you will realize that this will affirm more reforms necessary to enhance, the long-term growth. But still we need to try and mitigate ways and see how trade can boost or be boosted around these factors. Because there is one thing, Joram, you and I coming together without, a cause, or it's just for an excitement we come together. But if we have a cause really to address, and if we are there going to integrate a lot of things, to me that is the walk away.
And also when it comes to making sure that the environment is also safeguarded with the economic activities that do happen, because most of the countries are trying to see that by 2030 they emit almost the negative effects, or let's say human activities that can cause harm to the environment or cause harm to the surrounding. Because some of the human activities, when you look at industries that are set up, they normally have a side effect, or let's say water bodies, and in the long run it's going to actually damage or as well kill creatures that actually live in the seas or in the water bodies.
It's a very danger to aquatic life. But I'm speaking of that, you're reminding me about when government was coming out recent, like 2 months ago, when they were highlighting about the use of polythene, how they're going to, scrape it off, but we're still using it. And I'm thinking that government is trying to make ways of us hating polythene papers. Do you realize Ovuvera Katibuunya?
No, but I think I for one believe it may not.
But no, has it happened to you?
No, it
Have
does
you
happen,
experienced
because
it?
most of them, all of them, almost the black ones.
Yeah, the black ones.
And,
there is a way now they're
so
smelling
I still
very
feel
funny.
it may not be because of government, but it may be due to the chemicals now that are being used, or let's say during the recycling process. But in most cases, I think the chemicals that are being used, because you'll find out that the green ones don't have that weird smell like the black ones, and sometimes I even choose not to carry anything in the black caveras because of that scent.
You see that? Are you even hearing what you're saying? So you are now wanting to abstain from now taking on cavera. To me, I think it could be a great tactic, by the way, because me too, I do not want now to be associated with the black caviar, but all those ways are there to protect our environment.
All right, and with that, we still move on with the SMB here. This is a Smart Means Business, but after the break, we are going to discuss SMB across borders to look at those stories that have made headlines across the international scene, the African continent, and the world at large. Stick around.